Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum. My name is Olga Tumanova, and we continue our operation. It's day 282 of the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people. And now we will be talking about the situation in Mykolaiv. Joining us on live is Oleksandr Sienkevych, mayor of Mykolaiv. Mr. Oleksandr, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Do we understand it correct that lately, within the last couple of weeks, the situation with the shellings improved in Mykolaiv? Is it so? Yes, it's true. With the liberation of Kherson, just 2 days after that was the last shelling against Mykolaiv. A rocket hit a 5-story building, which resulted in the death of 7 people and the destruction of all the 5 floors. After that, there were no rockets hitting the city, so the front changed, and now Kherson is being shelled constantly. In Mykolaiv, certain activity resumed. We see the growth in number of cars in the streets and number of people coming back to the city. We understand that now for sure your front is humanitarian. So what's the situation with energy systems and critical infrastructure? For the last couple of days, the situation, just like all over Ukraine within the last week, did not change for the best. We have rolling power shutdowns. Obviously, the mayor of the city, it's his fault. Many citizens of Mykolaiv, they write me, they text me, and I encourage everybody to visit the page of Mykolaiv Obelenерgo to check the schedule of rolling power shutdowns, so that the people can react respectively and get prepared to the power shutdown or power going back up. And I tell the citizens of Mykolaiv to be ready to the worst, and even that we may end up in a situation we don't have either power or water or gas. The city government prepares itself, but every citizen should be prepared by themselves too, like to prepare warm clothing, water, food. And now some people, even after the many months of bombardment, they still don't understand what's going on. They tell me, get the power back on, get the heat supply back on. There is water supply in Mykolaiv, there is heat supply all across Mykolaiv. I mean, the centralized heating. There are some emergency situations which are being mitigated, and we resume the heat supply immediately. We keep deploying the resilience stations for the case of blackout. As to the main problem for Mykolaiv, the supply of potable water, was the situation in this regard? We know that our repairing teams are almost done with all the works to resume the supply of potable water, but there was recently a shelling by the occupiers. So what's the situation now? Well, we completed the repairing works on all the pipes damaged by the occupiers. It was 72 kilometers of the pipes with a diameter of 1.4 meters, which supplied the potable water from the Dnipro River to Mykolaiv. And when those pipes were blown up on the 12th of April, we know that there were 4 such spots where the pipes were blown up. We draw the water from Pivdenny Bug. We still cannot change 2 parameters, the salinity of the water. Well, the level of salinity changed due to the change of the wind direction recently. So now the level of salt changed in the river, and many citizens of Mykolaiv ask me whether the potable water supply is back on in Mykolaiv. And just as you correctly commented, the last week, the Russians again they shelled the water treatment station, and now those pumps, they are inaccessible for us. I mean, we cannot resume the supply of potable water. In Kherson, it's insufficient electric power now to power up Kherson, and just as soon as there's enough power for Kherson, we may be able to understand the level of destruction of this pumping station and to resume pumping potable water back to the system. So let's wait for Kherson, and then we'll sort out the issue of this potable water pumping station. Mr. Oleksandr, with regard to the destruction of the residential areas, how many buildings were destroyed or damaged, and did you manage to complete the repairing works to repair the windows? Is this problem solved now? For the time being, we have 874 damaged buildings and more than 5,000 private buildings destroyed or damaged by the shellings in Mykolaiv. 244 roofs were damaged, and we repaired more than half of them. They're all covered, they're all protected against leaking, and we had to preserve a part of them for the capital repairs. Other ones that could be repaired were already repaired, and people have roofs above them back again. As to the windows, I received the information that we covered 100% of the broken windows. We were using plywood and foam because we just don't have the glass in the necessary quantities. Maybe it's not available even all across Ukraine, so we resumed the heat supply to those buildings, and I want to thank all the cities of Ukraine which sent their teams to Mykolaiv so we could cover those windows. And I want to encourage all the citizens of Mykolaiv who may have been omitted in this process, please contact 1588 to the Mykolaiv municipal hotline so we cover all their needs. So this is the situation. I hope that as soon as the enemy is being pushed away to the safe distance, we will be able to restore windows in the social institutions which were partially destroyed or damaged by the explosions of the bombs. We have questions in the studio, please. Good afternoon. Ukrinform, how many buildings are destroyed and are not subject to repair? And how will you solve the problem of the citizens who lived in those buildings? For the time being, we're having around 70 private houses which were destroyed to the ground, and around 30 apartment blocks, I mean the buildings with more than 2 floors, which are not subject to restoration. And for example, a part of the building is destroyed, and other parts function. For example, the building I mentioned, like one section of it is destroyed, but the other 2 sections, they have heat supply and people still live there. So we offer to all the people who suffered, who were afflicted by those rocket strikes. Well, there are no procedures for acquisition of new dwellings. There are no development companies who would have worked in Mykolaiv For the time being, there is no active construction. We document all the destruction. We add them to the special table. People keep reporting to us, and as soon as we have funds allocated for capital expenditures, we will be able to think about this issue. So people were located in the communal buildings, communal dwellings, and people may stay there, at least not out in the street. There are temporary location, temporary living stations outfitted in the kindergartens, and some people who come to us from Kherson, they're being taken care of by ICRC, so ICRC lets them stay with us. We have more questions, please.
Remus Cernea, Newsweek Romania. Do you know how many people left the city and how many people are still there?
In total, the population of Mykolaiv was about 500,000, 486,000 people. With the beginning of the war, more than half of the citizens left the cities. According to the recent evaluation, there is a half of the people comparing to the pre-war time. We calculated by the sewer waste and the information by the disposition of the solid waste, and also we evaluated by the number of cell connections to the cell communication tower. So 1 month ago it was about 230,000 citizens. As of today, it may be around 250,000 citizens. 156 citizens died as a result of shellings, including 2 children, and these numbers could have been way bigger. But more than half of the people, again, as I mentioned, left the city, so maybe thanks to that, the number of victims is not that big. Thank you, Mr. Oleksandr. Thank you for finding time to join us online. I will remind you we had Oleksandr Sienkevych, the mayor of Mykolaiv, joining us. And just in a couple of minutes, we will have our next briefing. Joining us online will be Ivan Fedorev, the mayor of Melitopol. Stay with us. Glory to Ukraine.